echoes through every home, every heart, from the streets to the studio.
Yes, a very beautiful morning, and welcome to another edition of In the Papers, your trusted guide for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. My name is Florence Ibhareman, and for the next 55 minutes, we shall be taking you through biggest development in politics, business, economy, security, and health. Yes, I will have headlines from the Nation's newspaper this morning, the Daily Post newspaper, the Daily Trust newspaper, the Guardian newspaper, and the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this Thursday morning. Beginning from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have federal government warns of worse flooding as climate change disrupts rainfall. Still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Idori lays foundation for new police headquarters to boost security. Yes, still on the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Adeleke seeks can prayers unveils second term agenda. Yes, away from the Hope newspaper this morning and now to the Punch, where we have ASU Kano Zone threatens industrial actions over unimplemented agreement. Yes, still taking headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have over 100 persecuted for occupying Lagos Road in 1 year. Still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have a talk on fake agency scandal. Presidency face heat as federal government prosecutor controversial DG. Still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Oboriwori approves a 13th month salary for Delta workers. Yes, still taking headlines, and we have this one from the Punch where we have a BECE resumes in Lagos after Oro Festival suspension. Away from the Punch and now to the Nation's newspaper where we have ADC fractions reject Atiku names Chris Umba 2027 presidential candidate. Still on the pages of the Nation's newspaper this morning where we have NMDPRA warns marketers against an arbitrary increase in pump price. Away from the Nation's newspaper and now to the Sun where we have Atiku appoints Kenneth Okonkwo as official spokesperson. And yes, still on the Sun newspaper this morning where we have INEC set to introduce a downloadable PVCs, full online voters registration. And yes, still on the pages of the Sun newspaper this Thursday morning where we have federal government unveils initiative to track every Nigerian learner from primary school to NYSC. Yes, glad to have you back. The program is In the Papers, your trusted guide for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. Beginning from the Hope newspaper this morning where we have federal government warns of worse flooding as climate change disrupts rainfall. Now the details. The federal government on Wednesday urged Nigerians to begin immediate preparations for possible flooding as the raining season intensifies, warning that climate change has significantly altered the country's rainfall pattern and heightened a flood risk across the several states. Special Assistant to the President on Climate Change Matters, Yusuf Kilani, who made the call, said the recent flooding in Lagos and other parts of the country should serve as a wake-up call for government, community and citizens to prioritize disaster preparedness and climate resistance. In a statement issued in Abuja, Kilani said that climate change was no longer a future environmental concern, but a present-day national development challenge requiring coordinated actions at all levels. According to him, scientific evidence has shown that rising global temperature are increasing atmospheric moisture, resulting to heavier rainfall and more frequent flooding. Coastal erosion desertification and prolonged droughts in different parts of Nigeria. Kelani said that the recent flood, which submerged roads, disrupted businesses and damaged homes in Lagos and other locations, underscores the growing vulnerability of urban centers to climate-related disaster. The presidential aide warned that flood risk extend beyond Lagos, stressing that communities along the River Niger and Benue, as well as states in the north-central, south-south, southeast part of the northwest and coastal region remains highly vulnerable. He urged state government, local government councils, traditional institutions, religious organizations, and community associations to strengthen public awareness campaign, inspect drainage infrastructure, and activate emergency response plan before the peak of the raining season. He also called on Nigerians to adopt environmental responsible practice, including regular cleaning drainage channels, disposing of waste properly, planting trees, and adhering to weather forecasts and flood advisories. For details of that news, see the Hope newspaper with this headline. Federal government warns of worse flooding as climate change disrupts rainfall. Yes, so taking headlines and news from the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Idori lays foundation for new police headquarters to boost security. Now the details. Idori has taken a major step towards strengthening security with the laying of the foundation stone for the new divisional police headquarters. The ceremony, which the ceremony was performed by the regent of and Ojomo of Idori land, High Chief Akinloye Akiboni, alongside a representative of the Ondo State Commissioner of Police and other dignitaries. Speaking at the event, the regent said the project was initiated in response to the national growing security challenges and the security incident recorded in Idori in February 2026. He noted that the presence of the police headquarters would help minimize the impact of the incident. He recommended Chief Dr. Kola Ademujimi and other well-meaning indigents for facilitating the approval of the project and disclosed that residents had continued to donate funds and building materials towards its constructions. Akiboni expressed a confidence that the project would be completed within 3 months, citing the community's strong commitment and collective support. Representing the Ondo State Commissioner of Police, ACP Omoniyi Komolafe, the area commander, praised the regional leadership and the patriotic spirit of the people of Idori. He apologized for the commissioner's absence, attributing it to official engagement and assuring the community that the Nigerian police force would make effective use of the facility upon its completion. For details of that news, see the Hope newspaper with this headline. Idori lays foundation for new police headquarters to boost security. Yes, still on the pages of the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Adeleke seeks scans prayers, unveils second term agenda. Now the details. Ocean State Governor Ademola Adeleke has appealed to the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) to continue praying for his administrations and to support efforts to ensure a peaceful governorship election in the state. The governor made the appeal on Wednesday during an interactive session with the Osun State chapter of CAN, where he also unveiled his administration's Imole upgraded 5-point agenda, which he described as a roadmap to consolidating the achievement recorded during his first term. Addressing Christian leaders, Adeleke expressed gratitude to the leadership of CAN for its prayers and support, saying the association has remained a dependable partner in promoting peace, justice, and development in Osun State. The governor noted that nearly 4 years after assuming office, his administration has fulfilled key campaign promises through improvements in workers' welfare, infrastructure, education, healthcare, agriculture, and support for small businesses. He also highlighted his government's commitment to religious harmony, stating that both Christians and Islam have been treated with fairness, equity, and respect through continued support for pilgrimage and collaborations with faith-based organizations. According to Adeleke, appointment into government have reflected competent fairness and inclusiveness, while cordial relationship have also been maintained with Christian missions and the missions-owned educational institution across the state. For details of that news, see the Hope newspaper with this headline. Adeleke says CAN's prayers unveils second-term agenda. Yes, still on the pages of the Hope newspaper this morning, where we have Ondo lawmaker warns against indiscriminate waste disposal. Now the details. The lawmaker representing Odigbo Constituency 1 in the Ondo State House of Assembly, Mr. Olatunji Ifabi, has appealed to residents to desist from indiscriminate waste disposal, particularly during the raining season. Ifabi made the appeal on Wednesday in his New Month message to constituents, which was made available to our correspondent. He expressed concern that despite the Ondo State government's effort to maintain a clean and healthy environment across Odigbo local government area, some residents continue to dump refuse indiscriminately on walkways, roadside, and in drainage channels. According to the lawmaker, the appeal became necessary because of the health risk associated with improper waste disposal and the need to promote environmental sanitation. Ifabi specifically urged residents of Ore, the commercial hub of the local government area, to stop dumping refuse along Sabo Road and the Ore-Okitipupa Irele Highway, warning that the practice poses serious health risk to road users and nearby residents. He further advised residents to dispose their waste only to designated refuse collection point and encourage households to purchase and properly use dustbin for effective waste management. For details of that news, see the Hope newspaper this morning with this headline. Ondo lawmaker warns against indiscriminate waste disposal. Yes, if you're just joining us, you're listening to us from iPower 102.7 FM, and the program is In the Papers, your trusted guide for news making major headlines in today's newspaper. Yes, I'm taking this headline from the Punch newspaper this Thursday morning, where we have Kansu unveils federal government school feeding program with 500 pupils. Now the details. The chairman of the Ojodo Local Council Development Area, David Oduibaku, has launched the federal government's PBAT Feeds school feeding program targeting 500 pupils of Ojodo Primary School. This was contained in a statement by the Chief Press Secretary of Oduibaku, Ayodele Oladere, on Wednesday. Oladere said that the initiative targeted adopt a school snack for tots PBAT feeds, which was being implemented under the Renewed Hope Agenda, a national homegrown school feeding program in partnership with the private sector. He noted that the launch in Ojodo with the statewide rollout of the Lagos state government, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu flagged off the program at Lagos Island East local government, while chairman of the state 57 local government and local government development council simultaneously commenced implementation in their respective council. According to him, the program was expected to provide snacks for 500 pupils in Primary 1 school within each council area for 3 days, with about 30,000 pupils targeted across Lagos State. Represented by the Supervisory Councillor for Education, Damilola Fayoni, Oduibaku described the initiative as a reflection of President Bola Tinubu's commitment to the welfare of school children. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Council unveils federal government school feeding program with 500 pupils. Yes, still on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have over 100 persecuted for occupying Lagos road medians in 1 year. And that report is coming from the commissioner. Now the details. The Lagos state government has disclosed that it's persecuted more than 100 people in the last 1 year for illegally occupying road medians and violating environmental regulations. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokumbo Wahab, made this known on Wednesday during an inspection of the ongoing clearance of illegal trade and squatters from the Okokomaiko Orile Road medians. The exercise, according to the state government on its official social media handle, is aimed at permanently clearing the corridors which has been designated for Lagos Rail Mass Transit Project. Wahab said the inspection was to assess compliance with the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's directive to remove all illegal structures and commercial activities obstructing the road median, noting that a year of engagement with traders had failed to produce lasting result. He explained that the wide road median was intentionally reserved for the Lagos Rail Mass Transit project, adding that the government would continue monitoring the corridors to prevent displaced traders from returning. On environmental sanitation, Wahab urged residents to dispose their waste properly through designated private sector participation waste operators instead of dumping refuge on roads and public spaces. He also warned traders and market leaders to maintain clean environment, clean market, saying environmental sanitation was a shared responsibility. If that story aligns with your interests, it is on the pages of the Punch newspaper this morning with this headline: Over 100 persecuted for occupying Lagos road medians in 1 year. Yes, still taking headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have Atiku appoints Kenneth Okonkwo as spokesperson. Now the details. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has appointed a chieftain of the African Democratic Congress, Kenneth Okonkwo, as a spokesperson weeks after the actor turned politician publicly criticized the party's choice of vice presidential candidate for the 2027 general elections. Okonkwo announced the appointment in a statement signed on Thursday on his official X handle, expressing gratitude to Atiku for the confidence reposed in him. He described the appointment as evidence of Atiku's leadership style, saying rather than pick offense against any of his associates for expressing genuine reservations for any actions taken, Atiku, always opt for dialogue and compromise that would endanger a solution to problems. Okonkwo disclosed that during discussions with Atiku and other leaders of the ADC, concerns over the interests of the Southeast were addressed despite what he described as challenges created by the Electoral Act 2026. He also thanked Dr. Kasim Imam, former ADC National Chairman, Rufus Onwosu, and Atiko's Senior Special Assistant on Special Duty, Dr. Ekene Onuka, for their role in strengthening the party ahead of the 2027 elections. The appointment comes weeks after Okonkwo faulted the selection of the ADC vice presidential candidate for the 2027 elections, warning that the reported decision could worsen what he described as marginalization of Southeast and national politics. For details of that news, see the Punch newspaper with this headline: Atiku appoints Kenneth Okonkwo as spokesperson. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, where we have why will declare Delta lawmakers seat vacant, and that report is coming from the Assembly. Now the details. The Delta State House of Assembly says the decision to declare the seat of the member representing Udu constituency vacant was taken in line with the provision of the 1999 Constitution. The chairman of the House Committee on Information and House Leader, Honorable Emeka Nwobi, gave the explanation in Asaba. Nwobi said the Assembly acted strictly on the constitutional power and not for political reason. He said, and I quote, the House merely carried out a constitutional responsibility after considering the resignation and defection letter submitted by the lawmaker representing Udu constituency. The Assembly spokesman explained that the Constitution clearly states that the condition under which the lawmaker can defect from political party on whose platform he or she was elected without losing the seat. According to him, the only condition is where there is a division or crisis within the political party at the national level. He said there was no evidence before the Assembly to show that the lawmaker's defection met the constitutional requirement. He also added that the Assembly's resolution should not be seen as political, but as a faithful implementation of the Constitution. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with this headline. Why we declared Delta lawmaker's seat vacant, says Assembly. Yes, away from the Punch and now to the Sun newspaper, where we have federal government unveils initiative to track every Nigerian learner from primary school to NYSC. Now the details. The federal government has unveiled an ambitious digital education data system that will track every Nigerian learner from primary school through tertiary education and the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC). The government described the initiative as a major step towards ending data gap, improving planning and reducing the number of out-of-school children. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, disclosed this in Abuja yesterday during the unveiling of the Digital National Education Management Information System, describing the platform as one of the most significant reforms ever undertaken in Nigeria's education sector. He said the initiative goes beyond our routine data collection, noting that it is designed to fundamentally transform education planning, policy implementation, monitoring, and accountability through real-time evidence-based data. According to him, the platform dignifies Nigerians' annual school census, census that were conducted manually, and for the first time introduced a unique 16-digit learner identification number (LIN) for every student in the country. He explained that the identifier would follow each learner throughout their education journey from primary school to junior and senior secondary school, tertiary institution, and eventually the NYSC, creating a unified education record for every Nigerian student. The minister disclosed that about 240 schools nationwide, including public, private, faith-based, technical, and vocational institutions, have been geotagged and assigned a unique identification number on the platform. For details of that story, see the Sun newspaper with this headline. Federal government unveils initiative to track every Nigerian learner from primary school to NYSC. Yes, still on the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have INEC set to introduce downloadable PVCs, full online voters registration. Now the details. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) is set to introduce downloadable permanent voters card (PVCs) for voters who have misplaced or defaced their original cards. INEC Chairman Professor Joash Amokpito disclosed this when he received the Director General of National Orientation Agency, Malam Lanre Isa Onilu, at the Commission's headquarters in Abuja yesterday. He explained that the new technology was part of ongoing effort to modernize Nigerians' electoral processes ahead of the 2027 general elections. According to him, the downloadable PVC option will not be automatic or open to first-time registrants who have never collected a physical card. He further stated that affected voters must formally lodge a complaint at least 90 days before an election to enable the Commission to process the replacement. Amopita said the Commission would pilot the downloadable PVC's technology during an off-cycle Osun governorship election in August. He also disclosed that INEC was finalizing works on the technology that would allow eligible citizens to complete their voters' registration entirely online without visiting INEC office for physical biometric capture. Amopinto said the advancements were aimed at eliminating the feeling of disenfranchisement among citizens and ensuring that everyone who desires to register could do so seamlessly. For details of that news, see the Sun newspaper with this headline. INEC set to introduce downloadable PVCs, full online voters registration. Yes, still taking headlines from the Sun newspaper this morning, where we have, I am fighting for justice, not political recognition. And that is coming from Shore. Now the details. African Action Congress AAC presidential candidate and activist Omoyele Sowore has said his decade-long campaign against injustice is driven by conviction rather than the pursuit of political office or personal recognition. Speaking during an interview with Arise News, Sowore said that he remained committed to challenging what he described as systematic injustice in Nigeria, despite repeated arrests, persecution, and personal sacrifices. Reflecting on the legal battle he has faced over the years, Sowore alleged that authorities have consistently used the judicial process to punish. Also criticized the use of Cyber Crime Act against critics, maintaining that the legislation should not be weaponized to suppress dissent or unpopular opinions. He also said the personal cost of his campaign has been erroneous, claiming his prolonged legal troubles are taking a heavy toll on his family, including the loss of his brother and his mother declining health. Despite those challenges, he said he could not claim success while millions of Nigerians continue to face poverty, insecurity, and poor governance. Sowore further urged the Nigerians. Showore further argued that Nigerians has yet to experience genuine democracy, describing the country's political system as one that continues to fail ordinary citizens. He also ruled out joining political alliance with established politicians, saying he would not compromise his principles by aligning with individuals he believes contributed to Nigerians' challenges. For details of that news, see the Sun newspaper with this headline. I am not fighting. I am fighting for justice, not political recognition. And that is coming from Shore. Yeah, still taking headlines and now to the Nation's newspaper this morning, where we have NMDPRA wants marketers against arbitrary increase in palm price. Now the details. The Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authorities yesterday joined forces with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission (FCCPC) in warning oil marketers against profiling an arbitrary increase in the pump price of petroleum products. The NMDPRA warning is coming 3 days after the Minister of State for the Petroleum Resources described the authority as directed the authority to intensify surveillance across the downstream sector and ensure that Nigerians benefit from the recent fall in global crude price. He gave the directive at the General Council and Legal Advisory Forum in Abuja. But the foil marketers disagree. They warn that they will shut down filling stations nationwide should the federal government attempt to impose price control on petrol in the country's deregulated downstream petroleum sector. For details of that news, see the Nation's newspaper with this headline. NMDPRA wants marketers against arbitrary increase in palm price. Still on the pages of the Nation's newspaper this morning, where we have government to evacuate more stranded Nigerians from South Africa. Now the details. The federal government has concluded an arrangement to evacuate another batch of over 200 stranded Nigerians from South Africa. The nations learned that the evacuation would be carried out this week, as the nations receive the Nigerian Kogi Central Senators Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has praised Air Peace for helping to convey stranded Nigerians from South Africa. Also, presidential aide Mr. Reno Omokri also urged the media to avoid using inflammatory language in reporting the ongoing xenophobic actions against Nigerians and other non-indigens in South Africa. Reacting to the latest development in South Africa, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kimbeni Ebefina, confirmed that the planned evacuation confirmed the planned evacuation, but he could not confirm the actual date and time of filing the story. The president of the Nigerian citizens in South Africa, Reverend Frank Onyekwelu, who confirmed the current situation in South Africa, also corroborated the report in another evacuation. For details of that news, see the nation's newspaper with this headline: Government to evacuate more stranded Nigerians from South Africa. Yes, still on the pages of the nation's newspaper this morning, where we have ADC fraction rejects Atiku, names Chris Umba 2027 presidential candidate. Now the details. A fraction of the African Democratic Congress (ADC), led by National Chairman Nafiu Bala Gombe, on Wednesday dismissed claims that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is the party's presidential candidate for 2027 general elections, insisting that it had concluded its internal processes and nominated Chris Umba as its flag bearer. Maintaining its position, the party declared that Atiku is not and has never been the ADC's presidential candidate for 2027 election. In a statement signed by the national chairman, Nafiu Bala Gombe, the party said the clarification became necessary in the public interest and to safeguard the integrity of Nigerians' democratic progress. The fraction also disowned a group alleged operating under the leadership of David Mark, describing it as a self-styled body with no recognition within the party. According to the statement, the group does not constitute any legitimate organ of the ADC and therefore lacks the constitutional and legal authority, including recognition by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to conduct congresses, primaries, or take a binding decision on behalf of the party. For details of that news, see the nation's newspaper with this headline: ADC fractions reject Atiku, names Chris Umba 2027 presidential candidate. Yes, a quick stop at Daily Post newspaper this morning, where we have CBN's revocation of microfinance bank licenses signals serious regulatory concerns, and that's coming from economists. Now the details. The revocation of the operating licenses of 13 microfinance banks in Kano has raised concern among customers and small business owners, with an economist warning that such actions by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) usually point to significant finance or governance problem. The The Central Bank of Nigeria has revoked the operating licenses of 46 microfinance banks across Nigeria over the failure to meet regulatory requirements for continued operations. In a statement issued on Wednesday, the Apex Bank said the revocation took effect from July 1, 2026, in accordance with Section 12 and 13 of the Banks and Other Financial Institution Act 2020. The CBN said the actions was approved by its governor, Olayemi Cardoso, following the affected bank's failure to meet the regulatory standards required of licensed financial institutions. According to the statement, the affected institutions were found to have one or more deficiencies, including insufficient assets to meet liabilities, closure of operations without the CBN's approval, prolonged inactivity, and of financial intermediation, failure to commence operations within 12 months of license approval, and failure to maintain a minimum capital requirement due to accumulated loss. For details of that story, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: CBN's revocations of microfinance banks license signals serious regulatory concerns. Yes, and lastly from Daily Post, where we have universities issues travel advisories to staff, students over Nigerian security concerns. Now the details. The management of Federal University Wukari FUW in Taraba State has issued a serious security advisory directing all members of staff and students to refrain from traveling along the Wukari Zaki and the Wukari Takum Road until further notice, citing prevailing security concerns in the affected areas. The directive was contained in a circular dated July 1, 2026 and released through the office of the registrar. The university said the advisory was a proactive measure aimed at safeguarding the lives and well-being of members of its community amid the current security situation. The university also urged members of the institution to remain vigilant during their journey and take necessary precaution to ensure their safety. The management explained that the advisory was issued purely as a precautionary measure and would remain in force until further notice. While acknowledging the inconveniences the directive may cause to commuters who regularly use the affected road, the university appealed for the understanding and cooperation of staff and students, stressing that the safety of members of the university community remains the highest priority. For details of that news, see Daily Post newspaper with this headline: University issues travel advisory to staff students over Nigerian security concerns. Yes, and that brings us to the end of today's edition of In the Papers. Many thanks to you all for joining as we reviewed the major headlines making rounds in today's newspaper. As always, remember, staying informed is one of the best ways of making sound decisions.